A name you all know. It starts with an S.
That's me!
Please welcome.
You lose control on the slightest turn. No time to live, no time to learn. You're crushing in your 30s, crushing.
Konnichiwa. Hi. Watashi wa skoshi nihongo hanasemasu. But not very good, and not very much. But in any case, this is Dipper Games 420. Welcome to another review. We're going to be taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan Full Power Son Goku this time around. He was released June 26th in Japan, was pushed back to September in the US, and the review was pushed back to February because I'm a lazy ass, that's why. But enough bullshit. Is this thing worth it? You're about to find out. You lazy piece of shit. I can be lazy, but you can't. Which is why, if you decide to skip to the end of this review, I'm going to send Mr. Frog to your home. Getting a little closer with the box. It's standard Figuarts fare. So let's just run through all of it real quick. You get a clear window, colored background, his name, usual pictures on the front, snake stem, ages 15 and up, blue Bandai Tamashii Nations Dragon Ball Z silver toy sticker, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits made in Vietnam, Tamashii Nations quality seal. Up top you have absolutely nothing. On the side you have a few pictures of Goku and his name reiterated once more. The usual shit on the back, some blurbs that if you want to read them, go ahead and pause them. The bluefin sticker, as well as a picture of Goku on the bottom, and his name reiterated once more on the side, and it reiterated yet again on the bottom. That does it for the box. Let's get Goku out of the box. Here Goku is out of the box. There's not really much to compare him to here, so let's just get the comparisons out of the way. Here he is next to the two 1.0 Super Saiyan Gokus, the original manga version on the left, and the SDCC 2011 special color version on the right. And the only other 2.0 Super Saiyan Goku, Warrior Awakening Goku. So that about does it for the comparisons. Let's move on to his paint and sculpt. So this section is probably going to be more so on the paint more than it is the sculpt, because most of this sculpt is Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Although part of me is thinking this is probably Vegeto's sculpt, just looking at his lower boot area here, just like his lower pants here. I think they're rehashed from Vegeto, but I could be wrong. His hair is very nice. It's very angular. There's a lot of sharp lines all throughout, and it actually is quite literally very sharp. I like the color they went with. It's a flat yellow. I do wish there was a little more shading in there, because I mean you can see a little bit of it, but there's not all that much. The face, I don't really see everything that everybody is upset about. I mean, it looks weird from some angles, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think the ears could have been a little more detailed, because you don't really see them, even like this. They're kind of muddied, although that's probably the camera fucking it up. Either or, this face is okay. I also kind of wish they sculpted the wrinkles in his forehead as opposed to just painting them on. That's a pretty lazy move on their end. So that just sort of leaves us with most of the paint on the figure. And to be completely honest, I can't say I'm entirely satisfied with this aspect of the figure either, because it's very glossy. Most of the orange on him is gloss, and I've never really been a fan of glossy finishes like this. I think glossy paint can work in some instances, like Ginyu's armor or Bardock's armor, but in those instances it's usually for something specific. Goku here, not really. There's also this really weird looking shading all throughout the lower half of his pants that I can't say I'm a big fan of. Gives it this really murky, muddy brown when you're looking at it. But aside from those gripes, I think aesthetically speaking, he's not too shabby. But on the plus side, the colors of his gi are pretty nice, and the paint for the most part is pretty clean. It's a little fuzzy where the chest meets his shirt, but it's not too horrible. So that about does it for the paint and sculpt, because I really don't have much else to say here. Let's move on to his accessories. As for Goku's accessories, you don't really get much with this one. You get three faces, and they're pretty standard fare. You get the yelling face, the gritted teeth face, and the happy smiling face. And I think they're all done pretty well. The gritted teeth face is definitely a little rough around the edges. I still think they could have made his eyes a little bit wider on that one. But other than that, they definitely made the faces pretty good. The smiling face is especially better than the promotional shot. I have no idea what went wrong with that prototype, but holy shit, they fucked that face up. But other than that, not really much else to say with the faces. As for the hands, you get the Kamehameha, open palm ki blast, martial arts stance, and 2 instantaneous movement hands. So in total, you have 4 faces and 5 pairs of hands. I will say though, the hands are pretty tough to switch on and off with this one. Constantly feels like I'm about to break the joint when I'm trying to pull his hand off. I don't know if that's the Vietnam plastic or what, but it just doesn't feel right to me when switching the hands out. So that about does it for the accessories. Let's move on to his articulation. Goku's articulation is pretty straightforward, so I'll really only be pointing out some major areas as we move along. But it's essentially just 2.0 movement. You get up and down at the head on a ball hinge, full 360 out of the upper head. A little bit of side-to-side tilt out of the neck. It can be used for some gesturing, but it doesn't really afford much in the grand scheme of things. Full 360 at the shoulder, moves up about that far if you don't want to break the sculpt, but can go up higher if you want to ruin the look of the sculpt. You get a butterfly joint that is slightly more effective than usual, albeit at the cost of that. The skin tone butterfly joint returning once more. Full 360 at the bicep, double joint at the elbow, very flimsy wrist pivot. You get the standard torso movement going forward, you get that far, back, not too far. You get some side to side tilt out of the upper torso, but it is a little squeaky. And a very, very tight lower waist. Decent enough split at the legs, and going front to back, kick pretty far. Thigh swivel, the joint at the knee, and a slightly improvised double ball peg at the ankle. That much of an inward rock, that much for an outward rock, that far down, that far up, and the usual toe hinge. That about does it for full power Goku. Let's end the review. So what do I think of full power Goku at the end of the day? In all honesty, I don't think it's the worst figure they've ever put out, but it's not the best by a long shot. There are definitely positives to this one. I like that Tamashi tried something new with his head as opposed to just taking the lazy route and giving us a Super Saiyan blue Goku with different hair and slightly altered parts, but at the end of the day, I think the Vietnam manufacturer and his rushed production ultimately hit this figure hard. There are definitely some strong points. The articulation is about as good as it's ever been for a Figuarts Goku. The colors look nice. They pop very well, aside from the weird shading on his legs, which can easily be hidden up with some posing. The faces look significantly better than the promotional shots, and the figure overall just turned out much better than I think we were expecting, but at the expense of the quality control. But if you want this guy, go ahead and get him, because he's pretty damn cheap. But this has been Nipper Games 420, and I'll see you guys next time.